Howdy, y'all. Welcome back to part 2 of Live at the Faroe Islands. This is Did You Pack Snacks, a family travel podcast. My name is Colin.
And I'm Meg.
And this is the one where we talk about all things high, all things low, and the long miles in between. And in this case, we're talking about the long miles of Faroe Islands, y'all.
Right. And in our last podcast, we chatted how we got here. We talked about some of our unique stays. And if you haven't listened, you should go back and check that one out first, because I think you're going to love it. We are in the Faroe Islands, like Colin said, and we just want to share our experience with you guys as we're living it.
Yeah. And let's pick up where we left off, because the last time we were at a magical farm.
We were.
And we stayed with a magical family, had the best meal with lamb that's been roasted, lamb that's been dried, beautiful potatoes, wine, but also the kindest people. We laughed all night, traded stories, and even the next day when we woke up, they even gifted our kids like official merch. Their farm has merch.
It was really sweet. Their daughter
ornaments?
I bought ornaments. They have pictures of, their farm animals that they've turned into ornaments. I bought coffee mugs. I mean, honestly, as the people know that follow along this podcast, I love a good
souvenir.
I love a good souvenir. And I've already been eyeing some at the gift shop downtown.
Our kids also have been asking, like, this every country they go to, if they see an animal from that country, they get a soft toy.
Right. So to mark the occasion.
Every day they're like, are we getting a puffin yet?
Yeah. Can we go get our puffin toy? Which we haven't told the people that we finally found them. So we'll have to circle back to that conversation.
Oh, yes.
But yes, we bought all kinds of merch from their sweet farm. We will leave the link in this podcast too, because we really just want to support them and we want you to go visit their farm when you come visit the Faroe Islands.
Yeah.
So the next activity that we did that was really unique is we got on a boat.
Ooh, what a day.
What a day.
Okay, so we woke up in our hotel, which we haven't talked much about this hotel, but we spent a lot of time there. Whenever we're in the capital, we've been based in Hotel Faroe, which I think Faroe it means Faroe Islands.
Okay.
So this is like Hotel Faroe Islands.
It's real bougie, real nice. It's very cute.
Perched at the top of a hill. You get the whole view of the capital. Beautiful breakfast. Great rooms.
It's a great place to stay.
Right. I can open my windows, walk on the turf roof, and there would be sheep grazing everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's a great
with
hotel.
A beautiful view of the city and the harbor down below.
Yeah.
Man, it's like a second home at this point.
Yeah,
They have one room in the hotel that's a laundry room. Do you know the joy that I felt? Because it's the weather here, which we haven't chatted about the weather. We're here at the tail end of summer, which means that it will be, 68 outside. And everyone's walking around in a t-shirt because it's so hot.
68, I think 58.
Really? Yeah, I don't think it's... Yeah, you're right. I think it's closer to...
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. But the days where the sun is shining, the sky is blue, people are walking around in t-shirts because that's a warm day here.
Right.
And so that's kind of summer. It doesn't get much warmer than that. But on the days where the sun isn't out, the weather changes. I read a quote that said, if you're in the Faroe Islands, don't be discouraged by the weather because it changes a million times throughout the day. Every 5 minutes is what the quote said. And we've experienced that to be true. It can be crazy foggy and then an hour later, blue skies or, vice versa. But what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of mud because it's just muddy. A wet climate. There's just a lot of moisture. And so very quickly, our kids, we stayed on a farm. Yeah. They were Charlotte chased chickens for 2 hours. She couldn't even eat dinner because she wanted to go chase chickens and catch a rabbit.
And Fluffy the bunny.
And catch Fluffy the bunny. So we left the farm with a lot of soiled clothing.
Yeah.
And I was just trying to think in my head, how am I going to get this clean? So when we got to this hotel and word on the street was there was a laundry room downstairs.
Man, y'all. Drama.
Well, it was a game changer because I was excited about it. But the drama is there's probably a couple hundred people that can stay at this hotel, and there are 2 washing machines and 1 dryer.
And not just any washer dryer. We're talking European washer dryers.
They're small.
Which are like, yeah, just small.
But there are so many pros and cons here. They're small, but they're free, and they have like their own, they provide their own soap. Yeah. So if you win the lottery and get a washing machine, like, it's kind of a sweet deal. But the drama came in because somebody loaded their washing machine. You guys don't care about this, but I'm going to tell you anyway.
Let's go.
Somebody loaded their washing machine too heavy, right? So when they put their clothes into the dryer, the cycle was like, I think 90 minutes to dry clothing. So I went in there, I'm watching the timer. Our hotel room was right across from the laundry room. So anytime I heard the door creak, I like peeked my head out.
This is like college dorm drama.
It really is. And so the person in front of me, the dryer cycle ended and their clothes were still wet, of course. So they hit it again. So an hour and a half later, so now we're going on 3 hours. And they come, their cycle ends. So I peek out because I want to get my stuff in the dryer because I'm exhausted. I want to go to sleep. And they hit restart again. And they start walking down the hallway for another hour and a half. And I am just like, Colin,
Megan had a mental breakdown by that point.
I'm so tired. I'm like, if I stay up for this, I'm not going to bed until like 2 a.m. That's if their stuff is dry next time. But if I don't dry our clothes, we don't have pants. Yeah, we don't have any pants to wear. So, I asked Colin, I said, I'm having a moment. I need you to tap in. So he went and told the front desk, was kind of like, what do we do? She said, that's ridiculous. Well,
the front desk was like, almost 3 hours of drying. Just take it out.
Take it out.
If they have a problem, tell them the front desk sent you.
Which gives me crazy anxiety. I hate like, confrontation.
I'm not doing your dirty work.
So Colin had this smart idea. He came into the room and he wrote a letter and he said...
Well, like the hotel have their own like notepads.
Yeah, with their logo.
Branded notepads.
So because he got permission from the front desk to take the clothes out, he wrote, please share the dryer with other guests. Signed, front desk. So he took their clothes out, and basically you said they had all their clothes in mesh bags.
It's like they were drying their clothes in packing cubes.
Right.
Why would you do that?
Which is probably why it was taking forever.
I don't know.
So anyway, Colin to the rescue, because even though my stomach was sick, I was like, just wait, we're going to walk into the laundry room and our clothes are going to be like cut into a million pieces or like ripped because they're going to have feelings about what you just did, but they didn't.
It all worked out. That was a long story about the laundry room, but the next day we got on the boat. I was just trying to tell them about the boat.
Well, we were telling them about the hotel.
Oh, it is a good hotel with a great laundry room. Just don't overfill the dryer, okay, guys?
All right. So we got on a boat. We were supposed to be on a group tour, but when we got there were too many people. And so the owner or the co-owner, we come to find out,
he was the co-owner.
And he just said, that's okay. Well, I'll just take the 4 of you on my boat. And so we unexpectedly got a private cruise tour, which was really fun.
Captain Stein, who does this on his off days.
Yeah, he
serves as the safety manager for Atlantic Airways.
He's also on the board, and he flew to New York last week as well because it was the first time there was a direct flight from Faroe Islands to New York. So him and a bunch of people went to New York for a few days, and he said he went sailing on the Hudson River, saw the city. So cool. So he's taking us out. And not only, guys, does he work for Atlantic Airways, run this boat tour company where he takes people out on speedboats, but as we're driving, the first little idyllic village that we see on the coast of our tour, I mean, jaw-dropping. I'm not even being dramatic.
No.
You look at it and you think, that's a storybook. I want to live there.
Like a postcard. There's like 30 houses.
There's a kid on the porch waving, and he goes, oh, that's my family. Oh, look, there's my wife. Oh, the black house there with 5 windows. That's my house. And he just waves to his family. And I just think, man, I don't get jealous of that many people.
Yeah.
But in that moment, I was just...
I mean, he was beaming with pride. Like, he was like...
How could you not?
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
And he was just happy, like, to show us, like, this is where we live, but not in like an arrogant way.
No, it was just like, he was so happy. He said there were a lot of young families that live there. that they just really love living there. He showed us the beach that they go to,
Right,
and that they had just bought this other building that him and some other people are
Atlantic
turning.
Airways had bought.
Oh, okay,
And
they're turning it into a restaurant.
Right.
Which, anyway, I just thought that was such an amazing start to the tour, because what better person to show us around than someone who actually lives there?
Right. And then he pointed to this like cabin and he was like, guys, you can come here anytime in the summer. I'm just kidding.
No, yeah. He's like, oh, and here's my spare house key.
Right.
No, he didn't. So that boat tour was fun. We basically went to different coves. We got to see, what is the name of the waterfall?
The most famous waterfall of the Faroe Islands is Mulafossur. And it's where this tiny, like we saw it today, it was just a tiny little creek. But what's so unique about it is that it doesn't land on land. It falls straight into the Atlantic Ocean.
It's beautiful.
So picture this crescent bay with puffins and all kinds of birds everywhere. And then this waterfall just gushing down into the ocean with mountain peaks behind it and sea stacks all around. I mean, y'all, it is it's here. Can you see it?
There's a picture on the wall.
People on YouTube, it's right next to me. And so, yeah, we got to, sail into the cove, and then we went to this other island that looked like a stegosaurus.
Yeah, wasn't it called Five Peaks or something?
Yeah, Five Peaks. I will not try to pronounce the Faroese name to it. But then he was like, you see that guy over there? The other captain? He's one of the 17 owners.
So 17 owners own this island.
I think they're all family.
He said that they're all family, but like maybe related from like way back when. They're somehow distant family.
Right.
But that they wanted the island to be owned and protected by Faroese people.
Yeah.
So the other captain was one of the 17 owners. And also, this island was featured in the newest Peter Pan movie because it looks like a fairy tale. Just the way it juts out of the ocean. It's covered in green grass.
I mean,
gorgeous.
the whole movie is set in the Faroe Islands.
Right.
Neverland. We're talking Neverland.
Neverland.
Yeah.
So the other guide apparently was one of the drivers for cast and crew during the filming. He was sworn to secrecy for 3 years.
Well, he used to be a politician and the Minister of Finance. So this is a guy that talks a lot. And so the joke was, our captain was saying, he was like, he had to sign an NDA. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, for 3 years.
3 years.
Before he could brag about the fact that he thought he was going to be in the movie because there were apparently some scenes that he thought he would be cast as an extra. But then when he watched the movie, so he kind of got to share that. But then when the movie came out, they cut those scenes. And so we kind of like joked with him. Anyway, all that to say, the places that we were seeing in real life were so dreamy and beautiful and storybook-like that they were the backdrop for Neverland in the most recent Peter Pan movie. That is so cool.
And then there was the iconic sea stack, which again, it's up here. I think it's pronounced Dragonir or something like that. But the water was at least calm enough that day, even though it was raining and misty, that we got to sail through it, and when we sailed through it, I mean, we were all just like looking around, and our captain looked at me. He goes, speechless, huh? And like, it's just cool that for him, and he lives literally across the street.
He can see it from his back
porch. And he sees it every day. But the look on his face, it was like he was so happy that we got to experience it.
Like he was proud to share something beautiful that he appreciates too.
And that was just so fun. And we got to drive around the cove, and we saw these huge salmon fisheries. And these salmon were like, I don't know, as long as my arm, just jumping up and down in the water. Like, it was so cool to see. And it was just the most awesome time out at sea.
It was so fun. The girls loved it. And dare I say, when we come back, because knock on wood, life is long, and I love this place, so I want to come back.
I want to come back.
But I think that something that I would do if our itinerary had more time, or if you were trying to include a different hike, there are a lot of smaller islands like the ones that we just mentioned and more, that you can basically pay to have a driver take you out. You get to spend a few hours hiking, getting different views. You can actually see those sea stacks from up high. If you wanted to. We actually saw a tourist that was walking the island by herself that got picked up by the other boat. But if I were to come back here, that's something that I'd love to do. I'd love to go to some of those smaller islands and just spend 5, 6, 7 hours getting all the views, doing all the hikes. I think that would be so fun.
I would love to, and we saw it on our boat tour too, but you would see helicopters going back and forth. And helicopter travel is very common here. It's subsidized by the government. I think it only costs 143 Danish krona, which, if my math is correct, it's somewhere between like $15. And you can only book one way, and these helicopters have 12 seats. It's really how the locals get to island. Before there were tunnels, you know. Now, of course, the tunnels are amazing. Every turn, you're always in a tunnel.
Okay, the thing about tunnels, they have bridges, but they do tunnels more. I mean, you go from one village to the other because of tunnel. The village that we're in today didn't have cars in it.
Until 2006.
Because the tunnel that connects this village to the one on the other side of the mountain wasn't finished until 2006. So you only could get here by walking, or they have a very small like dock that he said on some days
that's kind of sketchy.
But yeah, wild. So tunnels are just everywhere, going through mountains, going underwater, connecting islands. This is home to the only underwater roundabout.
Right.
There's a roundabout under the ocean that we've used multiple times. Where 3 different tunnels from different directions meet. And you use a roundabout under the ocean. They even have it like lit up really beautifully, which I think is wild. These tunnels are so long. And the 2-hour ferry ride that we took from the main island to the southern island called
Suroy.
I like Colin to pronounce everything so I don't get in trouble. That was a 2-hour ferry ride. Apparently, there are talks about eliminating the ferry ride, or at least eliminating how frequent it is, and connecting the islands by one final tunnel.
Right.
And this is a huge stretch of ocean.
It probably would be the longest underwater tunnel in the world.
I mean, surely.
Surely's got to be up there.
It's got to be up there. And that just blows my mind. So anyway, if that stuff fascinates you, I might be explaining tunnels wrong. I don't know if it's under the ocean floor. I'm just going to leave you to figure that out.
Some tunnel expert out there is dying laughing.
They're just, you guys are so silly. But they do have the only underwater roundabout in the world. There are many, many tunnels, both under the ocean, through the ocean, and through mountains, which make driving here very accessible.
Right.
You know, you're not doing switchbacks there are mountains everywhere.
Right.
Every direction I can look right now, if the sun was up, I would see a mountain. But you're not taking these like tight switchbacks up and down mountains.
No.
You're just driving through them.
It's it's a road trip paradise.
It really is.
Every single day. When I put in destinations in our GPS, when I get from point A to point B, it's always, without a doubt, somewhere between 45 minutes to an hour. But y'all, like, time goes by like nothing.
Because the views are that good. And you're just like, before you know it, you're already there. And again, like Megan said, there's no switchbacks. There's no traffic. I mean, it is just a beautiful, easy drive everywhere. So accessible. The only road trip note I will say is the packing snack situation is a little bit not complicated, but there aren't a lot of restaurants outside
of the capital.
I mean, a lot of these small villages, maybe they have a restaurant or two. We went to one here today.
Yeah.
But their menu is very limited, not necessarily kid friendly. You're going to get a Faroese menu.
Pizza.
Maybe pizza, but then even today we passed a pizza restaurant. We passed a pizza restaurant that was closed.
Yeah.
And the other day, our boat captain was like, yeah, there's a restaurant in town. Go there for lunch. It's the only one. We drove by. It was closed.
Right.
And so I think food anticipating food. So we've just taken care of that by trying to be mindful of where restaurants are.
Yeah.
But then also keeping snacks in our car. And then worst case scenario, everybody here eats at the gas station or at least grabs a snack from there.
I was about to say, you said worst case scenario. I'm looking forward to our next gas station stop.
They have these basically hot dogs.
Again, let's talk about the design of the hot dogs here.
They're
in America.
They're served in like a baguette, basically. Colin,
Right,
I don't eat. I can't eat bread. Unfortunately, it's really sad. But
sadly,
basically, it looks like a baguette with just the top taken off. Then they squirt ketchup or whatever sauce you want.
It's hollowed out in the middle.
And then the
and they only do footlongs here.
Yeah, and the hot dog just
footlong. Who's got the footlong?
The hot dog or whatever kind of meat you get just drops down the center of the bread.
Right.
And apparently, I mean, we have been to the gas station twice. There's always a line.
I always get my latte and a hot dog.
And there's always people in their cars. They also serve Faroese sandwiches. They have different like bakery items.
All kinds.
But every time we've gone to a gas station, the parking lot is full of people eating in their car. And there's always a line inside of people getting something to eat.
People are getting hot dogs, going and sitting in the car. And like it's a thing. I love it. I get my hot dog with a remoulade sauce. And boy, oh boy, I can't wait to go tomorrow.
Can't wait to go
I'm not going to lie. I'm going to miss it when we leave.
Okay, so another thing that we did, we mentioned, I don't remember if it was part 1 or part 2, we mentioned about hiking with kids and how that, there are a lot of incredible hikes to do here, but we can only really commit to 2 miles or less with the age of our kids.
Yeah.
But we got up early this morning.
Right.
And Colin looked up a hike that he felt like would be really family friendly, and it was.
And it was, yeah.
And it brought us, it was so muddy. It wasn't raining. It was just muddy because it's kind of always muddy here.
Yeah.
But it was so beautiful. It brought us to this gorgeous viewpoint. The girls had the best time just running.
I mean, when I said we were about to reach our viewpoint, Charlotte was like, I just wish this trail would just keep going.
Yeah.
It was an hour drive to the trailhead, but you can do the whole hike in 15 to 30 minutes.
Do you remember the name of the hike?
I'll link it in the link description. I will not try to pronounce it. I do have the name in my brain, but no, I will not say it.
Okay, we'll leave it below.
But it's just a straight hike. There's not even like a climb really, but you get views of villages at the bottom with a deep fjord carved through the middle of these giant mountains, and you're just having fun. Like the kids were just singing and laughing, and they were like pretending to open shops on these rocks, and
it was one of those moments where I told Colin, like as we were walking back to the car, I said, can we just like stop for a minute and take this in, because this is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in real life.
Yeah, and get to do with our family.
Yeah. It was beautiful. And it was beautiful. I'm thinking about it now.
Great.
I wish I could, flash a picture up on the screen or something. But for those of you listening, we're going to share a bunch of pictures on Instagram. We're going to share these experiences on YouTube.
Yeah.
So if you want to check out, our experience in a visual way rather than just our voices in your ear.
Y'all, we got content galore.
So much content. So you can follow us there. And this also is a great time to mention that if you're listening to this podcast, thanks for being here. We appreciate you. We'd love for you to share this podcast with a friend, maybe someone you want to travel to the Faroe Islands with. This could be a little hint. And if you enjoy listening today, we'd love for you to leave a review and subscribe.
Yeah, do something nice.
Do something.
We would love it.
For us. Yeah. Do something nice for us, please.
Okay, so, can we talk about today then?
Yeah, so today we also saw 2 waterfalls. We went to Fossa, which is a beautiful waterfall
on the side of a highway.
I
mean,
mean,
not just like a tiny waterfall.
No, massively beautiful.
Yeah.
And we just kind of drove up to it and got to experience it. I would say that was relatively a quick stop.
Yeah.
Because it was steps from our vehicle.
Right. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm a guy that just does not enjoy waterfalls. Like waterfalls, they don't do anything for me.
Okay.
Until the Faroe Islands.
Okay.
When you have a waterfall that falls into the Atlantic Ocean, That's great.
which was the second one that we went to.
Right. But I mean, even Fossa, the fact that it was on the side of the road, I didn't have to hike 3 miles to get there. And it was gorgeous.
It was gorgeous.
And there were beautiful rocks, lava rocks. And there were these, like, the wildflower game in the Faroe Islands is just on point. You know, so it's just like, and then you just feel the wind and the mist blowing on you because this water is like rushing down. It's just cool.
It's cool.
Yeah.
And then our second stop was to the waterfall. Again, hit me with the name.
Mulafassur.
That we saw from our boat tour.
Mm-hmm.
But this time we're actually staying in the village of
Gasadalur.
which is where the waterfall is located.
Yeah.
So we get to see the waterfall by foot, which is a different perspective.
Which was so cool.
It was so cool. When we saw the waterfall by boat, there were like 50 to 100 puffins, which puffins are really popular here in the summer months, which are June, July, and August. But we're basically here the last week of August, and they're on their way out. It's getting too cold. So we didn't expect that we would see them, but there's just all that buzz. You know, you got to see a puffin. So we were hopeful.
Yeah.
So when we were in the boat, we looked up and I thought, I saw all of these birds, you know, black, white chest,
but they
orange,
were
red
tiny.
beak. But they were tiny.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of them. And I mentioned to our driver or, you know, our boat guide, and he goes, oh yeah, those are all puffins. So many of them.
And those are probably the last ones you'll see of the season.
Yeah, they're probably about to leave.
Yeah.
And I just, you know, we didn't get to see any up close, just like the little dots all over, you know, around us. So then today when we went back, we thought, man, let's go see if we can see one up close.
Sure enough, the
And we get
puffins
there,
yesterday were packing their bags.
They're all gone.
They're gone.
Or they were gone today. And that was just kind of funny because I thought, man, he's actually right. But
I couldn't sleep last night knowing that we were going to come here.
and we might get to see them up close. But then we hung out for a long time because our kids made friends with this dog. And this dog is like a sheepdog. But the locals call him like a tourist dog because he's abandoned his station watching sheep. And now he just begs for the attention of tourists by bringing tourists rocks. He lays it at your feet. He wants you to throw it like a ball.
He literally plays fetch with rocks.
With tourists.
He doesn't even have a ball.
So our girls gave him so much attention. They also named him Pickles, even though him is actually a her. They kept calling him, so it's kind of stuck in my head that way. But Pickles, the sheepdog, followed us around for 3 hours.
Pickles stayed with us until we checked into our Airbnb.
And we broke the news to Charlotte that he was not allowed inside.
And Pickles, sadly. But I really hope to see her tomorrow.
I know, that would be really sweet. So as our kids were playing with Pickles, throwing her rocks and climbing on the mountain, and somewhere away from the cliff's edge, they were in like the safe area.
Yeah, and again, they were opening up a shop. And this time they were selling souvenirs like cozy sweaters.
Yeah, cozy sweaters, not food.
Yeah.
Really cute. So they were having the time of their life. So Colin and I just decided, let's just hang for a bit. And then out of the corner of our eye, we saw this tiny little in the distance puffin.
The one.
And it landed on a rock where even Colin's like zoom lens that he says is ghetto and not a good one.
It's a toy lens.
It's a toy lens,
Yeah.
but it got close enough that you can make out that it was actually a puppet. It's not a picture that I'd be like proud to frame on a wall, but we saw him flying around and then he landed on a rock. And so we zoomed in the camera so we could see him up close and he was so cute.
A little cutie.
And in the summer, like June and July, we saw another woman who visits the Faroe Islands all the time. And she said you can basically just sit down and they'll like walk around you, that there's so many of them.
Oh, no. She's talking about the island across the water, which people say is puffin paradise. And it's true. You do have to like pay money now to go. You got to pay money to get there.
And then you have to pay like an entrance fee.
Right.
So it ends up being pretty expensive per person.
And it's kind of controversial.
Well, yeah, because the fact that you have to pay all that money, I think there are some people...
Even the Faroese are like not cool with it.
Right, that it's so expensive. They prefer that it was free or affordable.
Sure.
Anyway, she said that if you go to that island in June or July, that you can see puffins just everywhere walking around.
You can sit on the ground.
Maybe even the beginning of August.
Yeah.
But we're just here right at the tail end of the season.
Right.
So they've started to leave. But anyway, throughout...
Maybe we'll come back next summer.
Maybe we'll go... I mean, we will come back, but
Okay.
I'm not sure when.
Can this be our summer? We spend summers in the Faroe Islands.
Yeah, if Atlantic Airways sponsors our flights every time, then yes, we can come back as often as you want.
Yeah.
But throughout, we stayed for a few hours and we ended up seeing, I don't know, maybe 10 puffins flying around. So we got to see more than one, but they were still pretty far away from us because we're standing at a cliff, but then you have to be behind the fence of the cliff, which I get it, safety reasons.
Yeah.
So anyway, but that was still fun that we got to see puffins in the wild.
And there's this trail that goes the whole length of this, what do you call this? This area. And I think it also connects to what they call the Postman's Trail. And so before this tunnel was built, this village was cut off. There's only 50 people living here. And this postman would have to hike the entire mountain 3 times a week with everybody's mail and then deliver them to the house here. And so they call that hike the Postman's Hike. Anyways,
so
we
sweet.
went all the way up with Pickles, of course. And then we went to this cafe.
Pickles the dog.
Pickles
just in
the dog.
case you already forgot. I don't want you to think we're carrying like jars of pickles.
Right. I mean, they're tasty. And then we went to this sweet cafe where this lady had gluten-free carrot cake. Again, I had the smoked salmon open-faced sandwich. The kids had some cookies. They also have this beer called Mullafosser, which is named after the famous waterfall. And the brewing company actually uses the water from the waterfall to make this beer.
That's incredible.
And I tried it, and y'all, it's amazing. Great beer.
So good.
And then we got to come to this cottage, and we got to meet the host. His name is Jakob.
One of the cool things, we can leave the link for the cottage down in the show notes because I definitely think this is a great place to stay.
Yeah.
One of the unique things about him is that he purchased this land. He owns a lot of this valley. He purchased it from a friend that he met years ago, but he told us that, like Colin said, he grew up hiking these mountains and spending his summers here. He lives in
Sorvagur, which is where the docks are, which is literally like 15 minutes away.
I'm convinced that because Colin grew up speaking multiple languages, he can hear a new language and just remember how to say it easier than I can.
Yeah,
like that
but
your brain is like more accustomed to that.
Yeah.
Because somebody will say, oh, this is the town of Silvergur. And you just say it so eloquently where
No,
I just stutter through. That's why I always am like, we went to like a hot potato conversation.
Well, my brain's going to forget how to say it tomorrow.
Okay.
And then B, I think I've just been on Google Maps so much this week that it's kind of like I've had flashcards.
Okay, you flexed.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So it's not like I know all these places. No. But yeah.
But okay. No, that's what I was going to say. I almost forgot. Glad I didn't. He lives there and he is a contractor builder. And the first 4 houses, there's like 6 of them in this little area where we're staying in the valley that he owns.
I believe he owns the waterfall too.
I think he did say that. Yep.
Yeah.
But the first 4 houses he built completely in his town and then took the roof off and bussed them over here and made them so the dimensions would just exactly fit through the tunnels.
Right. He
on the way
built
here.
them according to the tunnel.
He built them according to the tunnel.
Yeah.
So he said, I literally put that on a truck and just enough space on every side to get them through the tunnel to put them on the foundation here for people to stay in. And one of them, he said, from the day that it was completed, that it came through the tunnel to the first person renting it was 11 days.
Right.
Because it was already made.
And y'all, this is just a dad with 3 daughters. And you could tell that this is just his passion.
It's so sweet.
The cleaning company didn't make it out today, so he was the cleaning company.
Yeah.
So he was the one cleaning this entire place. That's why we got to chat with him. And he's just the sweetest gentleman.
He was so sweet.
And y'all, when we're talking about these cabins, like, it is no small feat. We're talking like, I believe these floors can be heated or insulated really well because they're not cold. Our sink at the tap of a button spits out boiling water with steam. Like crazy.
And all of these things are significant because of how remote we are right now.
We're very remote.
The fact that they didn't even have electricity until 1973.
There's not a grocery store here.
Right.
There's not any store.
There's
one farm, like there was one house that was selling onions and a sheep horn for 20 krona.
And you just left your money outside in the little teapot.
In a little kettle pot that he had scratched a hole in.
So to have such a modern cabin in such a remote, beautiful valley does feel very unique.
Built by another girl dad.
That's why you connect with him, girl dad.
And so like my heart is just like, I am with you. I want to support you.
Yeah, I love that.
And yeah, this cabin is just, it smells like fresh pine. I mean, come on. Is it even pine? I don't know. There's no trees here.
Okay, so guess what we're going to do next?
What?
We're going to we're just going to move through some questions quickly.
Okay.
Because I asked the people.
You did.
Said, we're going to record a podcast. Do you have any questions for us?
Okay.
So as I pull those up, I'm going to add my own question.
Okay.
And this is like a hot take. We don't want to just like chit chat for too long about them. We kind of want to move through them.
Okay.
So share your first impression of the Faroe Islands.
First impression, vast, remote, yet well thought of, kind, and just homey, like cozy.
My first impression would be like just breathtakingly beautiful, comma, remote, comma, simple in a beautiful way, comma, can I live here?
Question mark.
Question mark.
Yeah.
I love it. That's not a...
Yeah. And I'll say this even more too. There's just some element of like, I know it's a country because even though it's under as a Danish authority, they are nothing like the Danes.
Well, no, I mean, before we came, truth be told, we were like, can we count this as a country? Because it's under the Kingdom of Denmark. And so we just thought, on paper, maybe not. They have their own government.
Right.
They speak Faroese. They learn Danish in school because they're part of the Kingdom in Denmark. But the language that they speak throughout the day is Faroese, which is nothing like Danish.
No, it's closer to the Icelandic people are the closest to the Vikings, and they're number 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they sound nothing the same.
No.
One of our, John,
Yeah.
he was like, this is how you say this in Faroese. This is how you say this in Danish. And it was like
nothing
alike.
Yeah.
So learning that and just learning, there are so many beautiful things that I think that we've learned that make the Faroe Islands like their own place.
And
I mean, they're uniquely themselves.
And it would be so sad if we just didn't count this as a country.
Yeah.
And
it definitely
because
is.
it's nothing like Denmark.
Right.
And I thought that it wasn't a country because they were using the Danish krona, but I learned that using currency is not a strong factor because you can go to Paris and they're not using their own currency, they're using a euro, and so like you go by all these other factors.
Right.
Anyways, next question.
Counting it as a country number 30.
That's
check.
right.
Okay, so another question. How long is the flight from New York City? We shared that on part 1 of our podcast. It was 7 hours, a day flight leaving from Stewart
Airport.
Leaving from Stewart Airport in New York during the day, landing in the Faroe Islands 7 hours later.
The perfect setup to cross the Atlantic.
Setup. Okay, next question. I did say on Instagram that this was my number 1 bucket list. So this person is asking, why was it number 1? And I'm going to answer this. I'm going to answer this question with something that I hope you're satisfied with. There's like a tie for number 1.
Oh Lord! Between how many places?
Well, maybe So I phrased it a little differently. I would say that the Faroe Islands have been in my top 5 for a while.
Okay.
But it's like the Faroe Islands, New Zealand is another one that's way up there. I would say Japan's another one way up there. But New Zealand and the Faroe Islands specifically have been desirable destinations for me.
Why?
Because they're so beautiful. Like nature, waterfalls, mountains, just the views are breathtaking. I love places like that.
You want to go to a place where you look out the window and you're happy.
Or you look out the window and you just feel small. Like, and things feel simple and everything feels slower, you know? And so I think that New Zealand and the Faroe Islands were always at the very top of my list because of those reasons, but also because they're so remote. It just felt like a long, like, it's unlikely that I will get to go. So they're at the top of the list because that makes them even more desirable.
They're just hard to get to.
They're not very accessible.
Yeah.
And so it would feel extra special if I actually got the opportunity to go visit, because that feels like such a far-fetched idea.
Yeah.
I don't know if it will ever happen.
And Faroe Islands, because it is hard to get to, but New Zealand is just, expensive for us folk.
Well, I mean, Faroe Islands is probably expensive too.
Yeah.
I mean, meals, eating out is a little bit expensive.
Right.
All that to say, I hope that's an answer that satisfies you. It is definitely one of the number one places I've always wanted to visit, but for those reasons.
Yeah.
So I do feel very much like a bucket list.
Right.
This has been a bucket list week to get to see this up close.
Because if it's easy to get to, you're going to get there at some point
eventually.
In life.
Yeah. Okay, would you ever go back in winter for Christmas time?
Why not?
I would say maybe.
Maybe. It wouldn't be the best because your days would be really short. By 3:30, 4 in the afternoon, it would be dark.
Perk of that is you might get to see the Northern Lights, but that again, is a lot of your day that's taken up by darkness. Right. So I would factor that in.
Yeah, and we've learned that it is a huge Christian country. A lot of Lutherans, a lot of Baptists and Pentecostal churches. All these denominations are here.
So you'd want to know what would be open, because even we're here during the summer and there are a lot of restaurants and things that are closed on random days. So I would probably want to talk to someone in country and just ask, do people take vacation? Are shops open?
Yeah.
And then the last thing that I would factor in is we did learn that, it never gets very warm here and it never gets very cold here. It's not the same climate as Iceland, even though it seems on a map like they're relatively close.
Yeah.
So I don't think that it would be freezing, but I'd want to know more about the rain and the wind because I read that those months are like the wettest.
Yeah.
And so I would say maybe, question mark.
I want to know more about the food and the festivities.
Yeah.
Like, will there be Christmas markets? Will there be decorations and warm mulled cider? I don't know.
And if you dress, I would never let weather be the only deterrent because we visit a million places in the off season because it's just cheaper to go places in the off season.
Yeah.
So if you can find an affordable flight and that's just when you can get here, I don't think you're going to regret coming at Christmas time.
Right.
But if you had a preference, I think that I would lean more towards the warmer, quote unquote, warmer months, even though we're still dressed like winter basically some days, depending on if the sun's out. Just because you add that element of being able to see puffins, you might get to experience some warmer days.
Yeah.
And there might just be more to do outside in the warmer months.
There's probably not like boat tours going past September.
Oh, that's a good point because I actually read a sign today that the restaurant only functions from June to September. So all these things to look into because they're a small country. If tourism isn't booming at certain times of the year, there might be some things that are off the table for you.
Yeah.
But good things to look into. We're not the experts on that.
But if that was the only time you could come.
Just come anyway and stay with our friends John and Harriet the whole time. You'll have a great time.
Or in this Airbnb too with Jakub. And hey, guess what? The gas stations are going to be open. You can eat hot dogs. Grocery stores are going to be open. You're going to have fun.
Okay, this person said, best town to stay in with kids if you want to head out of the capital city. I would say for this question, just listen to this podcast, which you've already done. Good job. And listen to part 1 because we basically shared all of the different places that we've stayed.
Yeah. But I will say, like, to get out of the capital is a very easy feat. Like, this whole place, you can get from one side of Faroe Islands to the other in less than a day. You can hop a ferry. Like, even if you stayed in Tórshavn the whole time, you can drive to all these different places an hour and a half max.
That's a good thought. if you wanted to just set up camp, which sometimes traveling with kids, it's easier to do that because you get to unpack. And if you get a rental car, you can see all the things that we're seeing and just drive back to the city every night.
Right.
And like we kind of mentioned, I don't remember if it was on this podcast or the previous one, but the city is very, I would say city in air quotes. It's not overwhelming. It's not a different vibe. It very much has a similar vibe to everywhere else on the islands.
Yeah.
And so I don't think staying there, you're going to miss out on anything.
No. It's like the main town with more food options. That's really it.
That's really it.
But you can, like, when you look up places on Google Maps, if it says it's 45 minutes, it's gonna be 45 minutes because there will not be traffic here.
Right.
Yeah.
It's really easy to drive around.
At least in our experience.
Okay, last question. How would you describe the vibe? Peaceful, busy, etc.
Peaceful, friendly, look out for each other. People are together. Kids can be kids here. Like literally.
I would say it's very slow.
Yeah.
Simple, but in the best way. I've already said that.
Simple, but like you have everything. Like the schools here, oh my gosh, they have spent so much money in their schools. Their schools look incredible. Like I want to go to school there. And you be in this like village with your turf houses and your boat docks, and then you would see the modern, Scandinavian building with a playground. And then, you would see, and the way they described it in the little magazine in the flight was like, the way you should see the Faroe Islands is like people can be wearing traditional costumes, but with the latest iPhone in their pocket. Even our cabins, the places that we've stayed are, you have every amenity you want here. Yet at the same time, you're encouraged to go outside and go hang out and be one with nature.
Be one with nature.
It's like a whole national park.
I would say this is a vacation for you if you want to just get away and be somewhere that's like simple. There's not a bustling city. It's not like a lot of the other places that we've gone that have similar landscapes, but feel like there are a million tourists around all the time. Granted, we could also be here at a unique time because public school has started in most places in the world.
Yeah.
So, tourism might be more popular in June or July. But overall, I've just felt like everywhere we've gone, we've been around 10 or 15 people or alone.
Yeah.
And that has just been, I don't know, just a really beautiful, relaxing experience. So
yeah.
Come here if you're interested in hiking, seeing beautiful things, being outside, and then being inspired by just local, kind, friendly people. I mean, I don't think you're going to be disappointed.
If there was a destination made for us, like this is it. Like the perfect road trip destination, and you could still find Asian food in the capital.
Yeah. Check.
Yeah.
So I think that's it.
Gosh. Wow, y'all.
Thanks for hanging with us.
Live from the Faroe Islands.
Listening to all of our chit-chatting about how much we love this place. We're on a high. We're on a travel high, if you can't tell.
We're on a travel high for sure.
I feel like, you just gain so much inspiration from the places that you visit. Sometimes, that comes in different forms. But now I would say the inspiration that we're gaining is just wanting to take some things from the way of life, the way people live here, and incorporate it into our daily life.
In a couple days, we're going to head to another country.
Yeah, we're going to go back to Iceland. That was actually country number 1. It's the first place we ever went out of the States with Charlotte when she was 9 months old.
Yeah.
And we're headed back there just for a few days, honestly, for nostalgic sake.
Yep.
We went through the airport a few months ago and didn't obviously get to leave the airport. It was just a layover. And we both just felt really sad.
We felt this like ache of like,
I wish I could see it.
Iceland.
Yeah. So we're headed there for a few days before we head back to the States. So next week's podcast will likely be live from Iceland, where you get to probably hear some nostalgic stories, but also hear about some of our newer adventures.
Yeah.
So tune in next week. Thanks for hanging out.
Don't forget to pack snacks.
Bye.